Alabama trending in the right direction for a trio of in-state stars, but a long way to go between now and signing day. We're going to talk about that, kind of update you on some things there. Is Arch Manning the next big thing? One guy that knows a lot about winning isn't quite ready to give him all those accolades yet. And college football, EA Sports, just named their toughest places to play. Where's Brian Denny on this list? All that right here on the Bama Tailgate Show. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. It's time to go out there and play a little bit of golf. Actually, with this heat, though, maybe you want to hit the water park. Geyser Fall is going strong right now. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course as well. The Augusta, you can play with two amazing 18-hole courses, the Azaleas and the Oaks. Get you a steak at Philip M. Steakhouse. Take advantage of a place that's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham, and you feel like you're on the PGA Tour. All right, let's get the show started. Roll Tide, everybody. What do you say? It's time for the Bama Tailgate Show. I'm Mick Gillespie. Great to hear from you guys. I'm going to try to get shows out as much as I can. This time of year is kind of slow, but it's about to pick up. Recruiting is kind of the main thing going right now. And I feel like with recruiting, it's very difficult to really look at the class that you have right now and project what it's going to be when the signing actually happens. Because and Alabama really hasn't been victimized by this, but around college football with the NIL and the portal and everything else, you feel like, hey, on June 26th, Bama's got the 11th best class. If they had the first best class, would you feel comfortable enough to think that those guys were going to be there? I'm not there yet. I feel like recruiting high school kids is one of the most unreliable things that we have these days with the transfer portal, because you can go pick some guys off of another team's roster and have a much better idea of what they look like on the football field. That's why teams didn't want to play the 8A game or whatever their spring game is, because they don't want to have people watch their roster and try to pick it clean. But I think Kalen DeBoer and his staff have done a nice job of keeping the guys around. And then the other thing is this, is that you can't give up on the high school recruiting. I mean, it still is the lifeblood of success. You got to draft, you got to basically get these guys out of high school. You got to get them to commit, then you got to get them to sign, then you got to develop them. You hope they stick around and they're loyal, and then hopefully they can help you win. The talent's definitely spread a lot more evenly because of the way that the money's going right now. And I got to tell you, anything that Andrew Bone and On3 put out, I'm always ears to hear it. Some of you guys were kind of on me. Hey, Bone says that he thinks that Crowell is going to go to Bama, and I hope he's right. And maybe Bama stepped up. From what I heard, it was one of those deals where, and anybody would do this, where you really look. And this is how it always is. It's not just him. NIL is a big part of it. And maybe it looked like he was going to go somewhere besides Alabama, maybe Texas, and maybe Bama stepped up. I don't know. But Bone seems to think that he's going to commit to Alabama when he does that coming up here soon. And I hope that's the case. What is it, the 26th? That he's going to announce, like I said, today. So we'll find out. But what I love is that this coaching staff is getting the reputation as a coaching staff that wants guys that have mutual respect. Hey, we want you here if you want to be here. And I think, and I've said this since they got to Alabama, that them recruiting the in-state players is something that they just had to do. They didn't do a good enough job of that last year. They did a great job recruiting. They got a lot of good players, but you got to get the in-state guys. They're in a battle right now for 3 guys that I think are crucially important because it's not just about what they can do to help your team win. It's also the perspective of the guys that are coming behind them in the state that Alabama still wants and still going to go after and is still the place to go for in-state players. Now, Tank Jones' thoughts on the Capstone. His parents talked about it. He talked about it. Basically, you know him. He's the 5-star edge rusher from St. Paul's and Mobile. He is sought after by everybody. Oregon thinks they have a shot. Feels like it's Alabama and Auburn, but any program worth its salt would love to have Tank Jones. And they're offering him everything to go there. And it feels like, and Tank got his first offer from Coach Saban. So, I mean, he's been, on Alabama's radar for a long time. But the one thing that you keep hearing is that his family feels like when they're at Alabama, they want guys that want to be there, that they're not trying to just give you the full out sell. Hey, we'll do anything for you. You come here where you're going to be this and this and this. Saban kind of established that. You come to Alabama because you want to be the best that you can be. You come to Alabama because you want to go up against the best every day. You want to go through the process. And the sales pitch wasn't, hey, you know what, we'll give you everything you want. You don't have to come here and work. It's we're going to work you hard. This staff, their sales pitch is, we want you if you want to be here. But if you don't want to be here, don't come. And I love that because with the transfer portal and the NIL stuff and everything else that goes along with it, you have to have guys that want to be there. And it just sounds like that has resonated with Tank Jones. So I feel like he's the most important player out of this class. I feel like he's a guy that Alabama cannot let go. They need to continue to dominate down in LA and lower Alabama. And to me, he is a must-get. Now, the other 5-star is Cedarian Morgan, the 5-star wide receiver from Benjamin Russell, maybe the number 2 receiver in the country, according to some of the services. And he's another guy. These guys grew up Alabama fans. So it's a bad system where you don't even play it down and you're getting paid like you did because it wasn't supposed to be like that. But that's the system, and until they fix it, then, you're going to have to pay these guys. So I just hope that the money's there, that the resources are there to make sure that Alabama has the talent it needs to continue to be one of the top-notch programs in the country. And it's been a long time all of a sudden since 2020, that last national championship win. Saban was winning them for every class he had. And so Coach DeBoer and his staff, I think they're doing an excellent job recruiting. And I hope that, that Bama continues to trend in the direction of bringing in these 3 guys. But don't count Auburn out. They've got resources too. And, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. But even if this is the thing, and I want to caution some of you guys, because even if a player commits, they still have to sign and show up. Remember Coleman last year? He kept going back and forth and ended up at Auburn. It's just the way it is, right? You're going to lose players, and it's not a thing until it is a thing, until they show up. So, I'm cautiously optimistic about the direction of Ezavier Crowell. I hope Bone's right, and and I know from talking with Clint Lamb on Cover Crimson, he's pretty fired up about the direction of the program. I'm hearing Georgia's got a lot of players that are going to drop here soon. So it's going to be interesting to see like when things shake out where this class is going to be. But if you start seeing Alabama at the end of the recruiting cycle out of the top 10, that is not a good sign. Just keep that in mind. Even with the transfer portal and everything else, you just don't want that to be where they go. So it's going to be interesting to see where things start to fall, and after all the visits are over, where they are. All right, a couple things I wanted to talk about outside of the recruiting and what's going on there. Steve Spurrier, he was the man back in my days of college. Alabama beat him for the 1999 SEC championship. It was quite a game, and they beat him twice that season. It was a big deal. He's a Hall of Famer, national champion, and a really good coach. I love what he had to say about Arch Manning. Most people picking Texas to win the SEC. They got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman too. My question is, if he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time last year and he was a 7th-round pick? Love this. Because I wonder to myself the same thing. You know, how did that even happen? I think that Arch Manning would have been a better option than Quinn Ewers a year ago. But for some reason, Steve Sarkisian went with Arch Manning this year, Quinn Ewers last year, and they came up short against Ohio State. I thought some of it was bad play calling, but we'll see. You know, when you bring that Manning name in, and the Mannings have been amazing. Obviously, Archie Manning, then Peyton, and Eli Manning, and now Arch Manning. They've been amazing. This guy's got a ton of talent, but until you go out on the field and prove yourself, you still haven't proved yourself. And I think that's what Spurrier is saying. And I think it's a good point. When you look at the SEC right now, Georgia won the SEC last season. Bama was right there in the mix. And then the Oklahoma game, which was just an absolute debacle. So we'll see if Alabama can get back in that conversation again. They certainly have the players to do that. And until Arch Manning wins out on the football field, we don't really know what he can do against top-notch competition. Now, the last thing is this, kind of a fun. EA Sports in their video game, College Football 26, has the toughest places to play. And they got Tiger Stadium 1, Beaver Stadium 2, Ohio Stadium 3, Sanford Stadium 4, and then Bryant-Denny 5. Look, Tiger Stadium, it's not the toughest place to play. It's a loud place. But Tiger Stadium and Beaver Stadium ought to be put right behind Clemson. Just both of them there. I'd say Ohio Stadium, Sanford, and Bryant-Denny should be 1, 2, 3, and then I'd put Clemson 4th. How about Texas being 13th toughest? But pretty fun. I'm glad the video game's back. I just thought that was worth bringing up. Camp Randall 15th most, and Alabama. Look, Bama won at Tiger Stadium last year. They're playing at Sanford Stadium this season. They lost at Oklahoma last year. They've had some really good wins at Kyle Stadium. They've lost the last 2 times at Neyland. They won last time they were at Texas. They play at Doak Campbell Stadium against Florida State this year. They won last year at Camp Randall. They play at Williams-Brice Stadium. So, I mean, they're playing. They play at Jordan-Hare Stadium, which to me should be a little higher on that list. Even when Auburn's bad, they're tough there. But anyway, yeah, interesting. Bama plays a lot of these places this year, or they played there last year. But then being in the SEC, that's just kind of how it is. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging. We'll have Shank on soon. Going to add some other people to the channel as well. I want to remind you a couple things before we get off. First off, that we are proudly brought to you by our friends at New Life Art, and we want you to use our promo code, and that is Bama Tailgate. That promo code gets you 20% off. So you're not going to beat that. There's my Daniel Moore. Put it up in here right there. I'm going to tilt my screen up so you can see Gene Stallings back in the day. They have a bunch of great Alabama prints that are available. The big ones, the little ones, coffee mugs, calendars. I've even got a statue that they did. But 20% off at newlifeart.com, Bama Tailgate. When you go to checkout, just hit that and you'll get the 20% off. And then finally, Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Talked about it already. The golf at dancing rabbit. But don't forget about the sports book as well. You feeling comfortable about Bama's 9.5 over under this year? I saw one talk about really interesting that the Seahawks are a 7.5. They're picked to win 7.5 games, right, for the season. So you can bet over or under on that. I think it's going to be under. I know Jalen Milroe's their quarterback. I think they got rid of too many weapons in the offseason. Anyway, Pearl River is the place you could go. Hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. You want to put a little pizza money down on some wagers, you can do that. They have games. They have sports from all over the world. And in the Timeout Sports Lounge at Golden Moon, they have the 20 TVs, flat screens, a full bar. They got the kiosks, the individual kiosks, and then a bunch of other stuff over there as well, like Mom and Them's Restaurant, Philip M. Steakhouse, bands and comedians. Jeff Dunham's going to be there this summer. Find out for yourself at Pearl River Resort. We appreciate them so much. Roll Tide, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
To Pearl River Resort.